Sure. And even not before the whole speaking thing, gives the students some time, individually. You know, if you want to ask them to come up with words or something like that, instead of just shouting out, okay, people, yell me some words, and you want to find out what people already know, say, okay, I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Individually, I want you to write in your notebook, 5 words that are related to this topic. Absolutely. And, that gives the shyer student the opportunity, equal with everybody else, to come up with ideas. Right.
And I think also something that we can forget to do as teachers is we can forget to tell people that we will be asking for their input at whole class level. So say, for example, they are working in pairs. You can say, okay, now I'm going to ask you to listen carefully to your partner, because I will be asking some of you in the class to tell me what your partner said, or to tell everybody what your partner said. So be prepared to share. And I mean, sometimes when people are saying what their partner thinks or what their partner said, that actually can help them gain more confidence and feel less shy, because they're not saying anything that is too close to themselves. They're not expressing their own opinion. They're not saying what they think. They're just trying to paraphrase or repeat what their partner said, and that kind of aspect of the embarrassment can be taken away too.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, so the last section of the book that I'm going to talk about today is homework. People have problems with homework for a variety of reasons. I mean, when I was a newer teacher, I really didn't know how to utilize homework. I just thought, based on my own experience of how homework was given to me in high school. For example, I had a course book and a workbook, and so I would teach from the course book, do my own lesson thing, and then for homework I would give the workbook activities. I thought, hey, that's extra practice activity, it's repeating what they've done, it's reinforcing, blah, 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 and all that might be true, but it is kind of boring, and I don't know about you, but I never really cared for doing homework when I was in high school.
Come on, what else is there to do?
Nothing. Yeah, so I'm sure your students have the same expectation of homework being boring and so on. And, other situations are the student thinks it's boring, so they don't do it. So if you've planned on using that homework in the beginning of your next lesson or throughout your next lesson, and nobody's done it, well, then, of course, your lesson is
compromised.
So, students always have these issues with homework, but what I think is if you make them feel like what they will do for homework will be used in class and is relevant to them, instead of just boring extensions of practice activities or something that isn't really followed up on in the next class, I think they'll be motivated to do it. And it can also give you material to use in your upcoming lessons. So let's try an activity. Well, let's look at an activity, rather. One way to motivate students is to do their homework is to show them that the language you're teaching can be found outside the classroom in a natural context. That way they know it is authentic and it gets them involved in their own learning. I know when I taught idioms, for example, I would teach something like, give me an idiom, Tanya.
On the other hand?
On the other hand, right? And I couldn't find any use of on the other hand in a course book, for example, because I was looking for it, right? But then if I went on the internet or I read the newspaper and I saw it, I would bring it to school the next day and go, look, people actually do use this, right? So I wanted to verify to students that what I was teaching them wasn't, irrelevant and not used in everyday context. So by trying to incorporate this into the homework, I think that it will motivate the students to do the homework.
That would take a lot of searching if it weren't the age of the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, now you could just say, get onto Google, put this idiom in quotation marks and see if you can find an interesting, they undoubtedly will find another interesting context in which the idiom appears. I mean, that's really a good use of the internet there.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you automatically get, it's going to be real stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I used to try to do that stuff too, but really, realistically, it's always like, okay, this is just, mean. Like, go spend 5 hours on the subway tonight and scanning all the ads so you can find this word, doppelganger.
Trust me, people do use the word doppelganger.
Out there. Or you could just go to a bar and drink yourself silly, and then you'd hear it everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're muttering it under your breath. Doppelganger.
So what I did with one of my classes once was I thought, okay, I'm going to teach a particular type of vocabulary, and I want to show them that it is used outside of the class. And the way it was used in the course book was a little fabricated, to be honest. So I asked them to look for this vocabulary, this type of vocabulary, after I had taught them the form and how it was used and some examples of it. And I wanted them to go throughout their daily life, maybe for a couple of days, didn't have to be one day. And I wanted them to see if they could find examples of this type of vocabulary out in the real world somewhere. And it wasn't the case of doppelganger or, on the other hand, where they actually had to find that specific word, but it was just the type of vocabulary I was looking for.
Right.
So students came back in a couple of days, and they brought this cartoon. Let me just get out my... They brought this cartoon. They brought, in this case, I found this one on the internet, but it is from today's Metro. And someone brought a recipe that they had been using. And they had found the type of vocabulary inside each of these things that I had been looking for, that I had been teaching them. So it might not be clear to you right away because you don't know what type of vocabulary I was teaching. But can you look through here and see if you can find anything that is repetitive?
Well, it could be part of a lexical set.
Yes, could be. If anybody has a suggestion as to what I might have asked the students to look for, can you put it in the question box? Leo already knows.
He's so quick.
Yes, very clever.
He probably downloaded the answer.
From Tyson's brain.
Yeah.
We had a little conversation before. Oh, we've got a couple of people that got the right answer. Someone's saying imperatives. That's not what I'm looking for, but that's a good try.
That is a good one.
Repetition of the word beans. Where is beans in the other one?
Yeah, it's just in the one text.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, something that's common for all three texts, right, Tyson?
I think she meant that something could be replaced by the word them, for example. I'm not really sure.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, let me give you a hint. What I'm looking for is in the line with the arrow. So see if anybody else can figure out what I was teaching there. Tanya, Nicole, do you have any guesses?
I do, but I'm nervous to offer my guess.
Why? Why are you nervous now to speak?
Sometimes my tone is wrong.
Any guesses, Nick?
Prepositions?
Kind of.
Function words. That would be one short lesson. We're doing function words today, kids.
Well, here is what I was pointing at, actually.
Ah.
So,
Did he say phrasal verbs?
yes, phrasal verbs.
Mm-hmm.
I taught my students what phrasal verbs were, and I had a lesson about them. And for homework, I asked my students to find a set number, maybe 3, that they encountered outside of the classroom. And what I wanted them to do was bring the actual source, so like rip this out of the newspaper or bring the recipe card, or, you know, if you can. Write down the meaning of the phrasal verb, maybe from the dictionary, into a notebook, and perhaps maybe a couple of other example sentences that might use this. Maybe if they could figure out whether it was separable or not as well. And bring it to class. And in the next day's class, I asked them to pair up and teach their partners about the phrasal verbs that they'd found using the source, the meaning, the example sentences they'd created. So they got more practice with finding phrasal verbs outside of the classroom in situations that they were in it, you know, while they were on the subway or while they were making food or on the internet. So it did show that phrasal verbs were used outside of the classroom, and that was really the point.